an introduction of himself and also the background of Alchemy, as well as the inspiration behind it. Of course, if you check the website, you discover that the mission is to transform programmatic advertising, and the decentralized ad platform has been built to restore the value exchange for advertisers, publishers, and consumers. So, Mr. Ben, can you give an introduction of yourself and also um, your background?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. So I am the CEO and one of the co-founders of Alkimi Exchange. We have been building the protocol now for 3 years and officially launched it in December. Well, I launched our mainnet in December last year. We've been testing on a private testnet for 12 months before that. I have worked in advertising, in ad tech my entire career. I worked for ad exchanges, I worked for publishers to help them monetize their website and allow advertisers or brands, if you think of it that way, to show ads on websites. So for those of you that probably aren't that familiar with the way that process works, it's not too dissimilar to the way that any kind of auction platform like eBay is a good example, but ads are bought and sold in real time with brands bidding on ads on websites with the highest bid, then winning, and that ad displaying on the website. So yeah, it's a huge industry, as you can see here from the screen that you're sharing. It's a $600 billion industry worldwide. That is predominantly owned by large platforms like Google, Facebook, but then there's a ton of other independent ad tech companies which help serve advertisers all across the world.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ben. While you're talking, I think Mr. Adam just popped in. Guys, before Mr. Adam would give a good introduction of himself, guys, make sure to have it in mind that this is not a financial advice. So for this reason, we have pinned the website, the link to the website in the Crypto Attack Telegram community. So do make sure to make your research and pay very close attention to our guest as he'll be unveiling some very vital information about the project. Mr. Adam, you're welcome.
Hey, sorry about that. Just had a bit of a problem with my internet. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So while Mr. Ben was giving a very good introduction of himself and the background, you just popped in. So we want to give you the spotlight to maybe say something before we kick off.
Yeah. Coming up with Alkimi, really kind of trying to find the solutions that would help traditional publishers make more money from the inventory that they've got, but also make sure that advertisers were getting what they were paying for, really. So yeah, we've been doing this for about 3 years, but before that we were very heavily in the advertising game.
All right, thank you, Mr. Adam. Thank you, Mr. Ben. Of course, you guys can take turns answering the questions. This is the presentation, and I'm really looking forward to a very decent presentation from you guys. And of course, guys, over the Binance Live, please, guys, do well to throw your questions before the live segment, because this AMA is broken into 3 segments. First, I'll be throwing some questions from my observation, and I will be asking some questions more like an observer rather than an interviewer. So So the next segment, which is the segment 2, would be from the X space. I picked about 5 questions from the X space. So before we stumble onto the live segment, guys, you can throw your questions because of our time, of course, just so we can attend to those questions. 5, of course, from the live segment as well. So let's get to the business of the day. What is Alkimi Exchange, basically?
So it's an ad exchange. So it facilitates the buying and selling of ads in real time on websites, on apps, on TVs, audio ads. And really what we like to think about is that the ad market is a asset. It's an intangible asset, but a real world asset nonetheless. And each of the ads that make up that asset have a fee attached to them or a value attached to them, because advertisers will pay a certain amount of money to show an ad on a website. So what we're doing with Alkimi is effectively tokenizing that asset, that real world asset, to allow anyone with the token to either pool liquidity or operate one of our nodes and share in the fees that are generated by our protocol. So you, as an ads token holder, effectively are helping to support in keeping the internet ad funded. I'm sure probably everyone on this call has seen a paywall or has found it difficult to access content. That is largely because publishers are struggling to make money. The reason that they're struggling to make money is that a lot of Web 2 ad exchanges, take huge fees when they facilitate the buying and selling of ads on websites, apps, TVs, etc. That can be in the region of 40 to 70% of every dollar that is spent online. So what we've done is taken the ad exchange and bring it onto a blockchain. Now, a lot of blockchains aren't capable of the high transaction speed required or transaction throughput required to support real-time bidding of advertising. So we've built our own layer 2 on Ethereum that allows for transactions to take place within 1,000 milliseconds, or the time it takes for an ad to load on a website. What we've also done by bringing the ad exchange on chain is created transparency in the market that doesn't currently exist. So if you think of Web 2 exchanges, black boxes, you can see that from a blockchain, you can see any transaction that takes place on chain. So that's really what we're bringing to advertising. So people can see seen a lot of adoption across the board. So we work with very large media agencies, global brands, global websites to help them monetize their sites, but equally help brands advertise in a way that's much more efficient than what they're currently doing. And again, the last point, which is very pertinent in the media advertising landscape, is the amount of emissions that are produced by ads online. So there's actually more carbon produced from ads online than there is from the aviation industry globally. And with the advances in Ethereum that have taken place, it's actually become quite an energy efficient chain. So we're able to offer the ability for brands and publishers to have a much more responsible kind of way to monetize their sites or access audiences they're looking to show their ads to.
Okay, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Mr. Ben. It's nice to know that Alkimi is bringing a whole new experience to the space, and also solving a very, very pressing problem currently lingering in the blockchain space. So thank you so much, Mr. Ben, and also thank you, Mr. Adam. So I'm going to ask this question about your ultimate vision, right? The ultimate vision of your project. What are you guys actually trying to achieve in the market?
So really, we're trying to make our industry that we've worked in for so long more efficient. And by using blockchain, it is a silver bullet for a lot of those problems that Ben mentioned earlier. Really, there's been a lot of value leak from premium publishers for like a very long time, since the advent of the internet. Basically, they used to go around selling magazines and newspapers, but they had complete control over who their audience was and who saw it and the advertising that was within it. And then as soon as things went online, they lost control of their audience, really, to walled gardens like Facebook, who sort of co-opted a lot of their audience and then ended up showing a lot of those news articles on their websites. And then also to just digital advertising on their websites, which ended up being taken over by kind of large ad tech companies and just generally tech companies now, but people like Google, who owns the kind of ad serving infrastructure that meant that they could get the adverts on page. And then that led to the advent of programmatic, where they also owns the exchange pipe in the middle. And as such, they ended up taking a very large cut of the fees. You can see it just in the fact that someone like Google every quarter makes around like $160 billion. And that is predominantly through advertising revenues that come from other websites where they've had to write articles, they have to hire journalists, they have to take, nice pictures to make it engaging, to get an audience onto their website. So really they're doing the majority of the work, and then to lose more. Think about, because they go to websites and they can read an article for free, but that is predominantly paid for by online advertising. There are some people who have a paywall, but that's been less effective for most publishers, and really that just fragments the market for all everyday users. It's a lot easier for everybody to see an advert online and then read any article they want anywhere on the internet, and the only way that's really possible is through advertising on those websites, and the publishers getting paid a fair price for that. So if we want to continue to have a free open internet for everybody to enjoy, then really the only way to do that is through internet advertising, and by those publishers getting given a fair value for that advertising, and that not being leaked to ad tech providers, third-party ad tech providers who are really kind of reaping too much of the benefits that really should be going to those publishers.
Also, just to add to that, from the advertiser or brand perspective, all of these brands are looking to acquire new customers. That has a cost to it, with a lot of the value being leaked, or rather advertisers overpaying to acquire new customers. That ultimately has a knock-on effect to us, the consumers, because the price of goods have to increase, because the cost to acquire new customers also is increasing. So not only does this affect the ability for the internet to stay free, but also the cost of goods that we're all buying every single day, because brands are having to spend so much money to acquire new customers in order to support themselves and provide the goods and services that they ultimately do.
Okay, that's amazing. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Ben. So I'm just gonna go ahead and ask some questions from my observations. But before I do that, proper research. So, Mr. Ben, Alchemy is based on the Ethereum network, but does it only have programmatic advertising as its goal, or does it have additional use cases?
The predominant use case is the buying and selling of ads. We've used some existing standards to support that, and that's what makes up our consensus mechanism. As you can see here from the screen that you're showing, it actually performs really well. So this was a test that we did with a very large cloud infrastructure provider throughout the course of last year. On Web2 exchanges, they were paying £7.08 CPM, or call that $9. With Alkimi, they were paying £2.27. So call that $2.80, let's say. That should ideally give you a picture of how many fees are being generated and created by Web2 exchange, and how much we're able to save advertisers money when they use our exchange. So we have effectively created a value exchange. I'm sure you could apply it to other sectors, but the digital advertising market is $600 billion. We're in the process of tokenizing that. That's an off-chain liquidity pool, if you want to think of it that way. We're bringing that liquidity on chain, and then allowing people that hold the token to share in some of that value that's generated by bringing all of that on chain.
There is also a kind of another angle that we've spoken about a bit. There's the real world asset angle. Obviously, this is kind of like a digital version of that, but also instead of a sort of deep in where it's decentralized physical infrastructure. We're kind of D'd in, if you will, so like decentralized digital infrastructure. We're by providing distributed nodes that allows any business to perform pretty much any transaction that they would do kind of through a digital exchange. So there's the endpoints that we interact with. So both on the buy and sell side, they're known as supply side platforms and demand side platforms. We can also use those distributed nodes to actually allow them to either bid or surface their inventory via a very similar thing that runs the whole exchange. So there's also kind of a slight element where infrastructure. You see that within the world where there's cookies still being used in browsers, which is like very, very old technology and wasn't even really meant for the purpose that it's being used now. So yeah, we provide that kind of decentralized digital infrastructure that will hopefully allow people to build other new products on top of it as well. The ad exchange is just the first part of that, which really allows people to monetize everything a lot more efficiently. And then when you've done that, you can then kind of build those almost like dApps on top of that, which, you know, might be specialist products like targeting and things like that, that you would be able to use the same infrastructure layer for.
Yeah, so I sort of observed that when I ventured into the website, I discovered that there was no pop-up that asked me to accept or to reject cookies. So that's quite notable. So okay, you see on the website, I discovered that the ad platform built on blockchain technology actually ensures that every transaction is independently validated. Let's say in a scenario where there is an error or perhaps some omissions, have you made provisions to correct these errors? Perhaps, did you get that?
Yes, got that. So effectively what we do is we require at least 3 of our nodes to have validated the transaction using the rules that are created by the network. So we use OpenRTB. That is a open source, widely used standard. Around 99% of digital ads are traded using OpenRTB. And that's just a way in which the data is sent between buyers and sellers. That takes care of a lot of the potential errors that might take place within when transferring data between a buyer and a seller. As a safeguard against that, we don't allow any information to pass through to buyers or sellers or be written to the ledger that isn't using that standard. And then equally, we will require a minimum of 3 nodes to validate that transaction before it is then written onto the blockchain. We have a multi-layered consensus that is then taking care of that validation to ensure that there is little to no errors across the network, because we do process a high volume of transactions, but ultimately, we have built in a number of fail safes. Our CTO, Chandru, worked for a very large TV company before he joined us at Alkimi, and that has meant he has a lot of experience in rolling these out. So he created Sky, which is a large broadcaster in the UK, and also Virgin, again, a large broadcaster in the UK's TV ad products. So we have, between the 3 of us, I think nearly 50 years worth of experience in this market. And then as you can see on the screen here, this is our Ads Explorer. These are the live snapshots of transactions that are being validated by the network. And as you can see, since December, we validated 16 million transactions across the network itself. And by the looks of things, yesterday had one of our highest volumes of transactions. Maybe we got beaten on the 8th of February there, but around about 500,000 transactions that took place per day. We have the capacity on the network as it is to scale up to 18 billion transactions per second, which is the equivalent of around $54 million worth of ad spend.
billion industry. So that's kind of $60 billion that has just gone to waste, essentially. So that is a big problem. Again, that's like another place where the biggest loser in that whole setup is the publisher, because they're just the ones who don't get paid because they're at the bottom of the stream, essentially. So by validating all the transactions ourselves and having a record of that happening at the point of sale, we actually get rid of a large part of that discrepancy, which obviously is way better for everybody else in the system.
We have two types of nodes. We have the master node and the guardian node. The master node requires 200,000 tokens as collateral, and the guardian node requires 50,000 tokens. You see that, yeah, on the website is showing it. We are currently hosting a raffle process for people to join the network. We don't want to have nodes validating for node's sake. So we expand as the network requirements expand. We are always onboarding new operators. I think we have another raffle that's taking place in a couple of months or so. But whilst you're waiting for the raffles to take place, we do also offer a liquidity pool on Balancer. So the liquidity pool on Balancer has around about $2.5 million of TVL right now. What you would then do is you get given an ST ads token or an LP token. You can then bring that to this platform. Balancer pool and the soft staking pool. The yield for the soft staking pool is around about approximately 18% at the moment for those that are in the pool. And then for operators, it's a very similar region of API. It varies depending on the number of transactions that are being validated. But yeah, ultimately, it's a great way for people to get involved, support liquidity, and then we use those liquidities to facilitate transactions between advertisers and publishers that are using the exchange.
All right, thank you so much. So, Mr. Adam, how does Alkimi plan to, create? Talking about trustworthiness, how does Alkimi plan to create a trustworthy environment for both advertisers and publishers alike?
So, I mean, the way that we predominantly do that is by charging a pretty honest fee. In the first instance, there's no kind of hidden costs or anything like that. It is just a flat fee. Currently, the incumbents in the market use very complicated, shall we say, fee structures. They're pretty opaque. Then once they've validated transactions, they aren't available to either party very easily. So they have essentially created black box that much information, you'd probably be able to see that the fees that were being charged weren't very transparent. That the people who were bidding in that were probably the exchange themselves to try and bid up bids or bid under the floor prices, front run their clients, kind of all these very strange tactics that have evolved over quite a long period of time in this sector of the industry. And by just providing a simple service with a simple fee and showing every single transaction to every party within it, we create a lot of trust straight away. And you can see that in the results, really, of the campaigns that we've run. We provide a much better sort of outcome, as well as just a much cheaper price. So by taking out that fat in the middle, you see that things like the metrics that people care about, things like click-through rates, view-through rates, all those sort of things actually increase, because you're able to bid on much better quality inventory, and you know that the supply path has been optimized between the advertiser and the publisher, so that there's no third parties coming in the middle of it. There's no multiple bids on the same impressions just to try and increase the price of those. So all of those kind of things, there's a lots of very kind of, we always talk about marginal gains. The big gain is obviously the fee is a lot lower, but then it actually has an effect on a lot of things around that. So that creates much better outcomes for both publishers and advertisers. And the proof is really in the pudding. Every time we do a campaign with somebody and we show them the results afterwards, that helps build trust. And once you do that, you kind of then roll on to get the next campaign, maybe a bigger budget. And eventually that will win out, because other incumbents can't really compete with us, mainly because they've been running their businesses for 10 years in the same fashion and getting away with it. It means that they are unable to kind of steer their ship in the same direction as us. And because of the infrastructure that we built being so effective, it makes it really hard for them to kind of drop their rates to the same level as us. So all those things kind of build trust. We're trying to do it honestly. We're going for kind of a low fee, high volume play, rather than a high fee and a high volume. So by doing that, we gain a lot of trust with our clients.
All right, that's absolutely amazing. It's absolutely nice that Alchemy is actually coming even at this time, solving some major problems in the space. So I also discovered something, on your website about Alchemy and showing that media is spent even with the lowest budget. So how does Alchemy ensure that the budget allocated for media is spent at the lowest budget? As advertising has inherent limitations and inefficiency, how does Alchemy bring efficiency to the world of advertising? And what are some of these limitations you're tackling?
So I think, again, it's more of the same that we've been talking about. So by providing transparency and log level information, advertisers can see exactly how their dollars are being spent. By having lower fees, they're able to spend more of their money on media. And then if you imagine that the way in which Uniswap works with an automated market maker, let's say, we have a decisioning engine that supports the same kind of process to allow advertisers to find the inventory that is going to perform best, or ads is what I mean when I say inventory, that is going to perform as well as it possibly can for their particular goals that they're looking to solve. So we do behavioral based targeting, we do site level targeting, IP targeting, really just to give the same kind of level of targeting that they expect from Web2 exchanges on a Web3 exchange that is using a blockchain infrastructure that affords them all of the benefits that we've discussed previously.
All right, thank you. So I would be moving into the questions from the X space very shortly. So, Mr. Adam, have you affiliated with any advertising company, like magazines or any agency so far? Talking about Alchemy?
Yeah, so we've actually got there's a thing called ads.txt, which is just so that you can confirm as a website who is allowed to buy and sell your inventory. So we're currently on about 260 sites with our ads.txt file on there. We've also been working with kind of 3 out of the major 6 advertising agency groups. And within that, there's probably 25 or so brands that we've been working with within those. So we are slowly gaining adoption. I think just as soon as people start to use it and they see the benefits, it's very hard for them to unsee it, really, in that same way that we always talk about in crypto about red pilling people. That's basically what we're doing using blockchain infrastructure for advertising. So we're getting to that point where we're getting to critical mass. Like we've seen a lot of those advertisers, the first ones who spent with us are respending again, and they're spending at much larger budgets. And as we go through kind of sales cycles, there's different planning phases. And once you've proven that you work, you get a bigger budget and you kind of work your way up. So we're getting there slowly but surely. We're getting a lot of adoption within those groups. And then we've also got the ability to expand into new markets as well. So we're at the moment mostly working in the UK and Europe, just because that's where our experience is. But slowly but surely we're getting more adoption from bigger brands that are global brands. So there's no reason that we wouldn't be able to work with them in the US, in Asia, in emerging markets as well. So once it happens, it will happen all at once, and we're kind of getting to that critical mass point at the moment.
All right, that's absolutely amazing. You spoke about, I think it was Mr. Ben who spoke about monetization, or could it be you, Adam? So I said I was going to visit that later, subsequently in the AMA. So I think this is the right
the transactions getting validated in real time. So we've got a nice counter on there, so you can see how many transactions have gone through the Alkimi Exchange, and that's currently increasing at a kind of rate of knots. We're getting very close to doing our first 500,000 transactions in 24.
The live segment where I'll be picking about 4 important questions that is actually interesting to Alkimi, that is actually related to Alkimi, and we will be wrapping up the session. But before we do that, also make sure to show your support by joining Alkimi on the Telegram community, and also do well to follow them on X Space. Check their website and also visit them on YouTube. Check out their videos and all the presentations. Of course, for the sake of those who are not currently here, a recap of this presentation is going to be pinned in Crypto Attack. So the next question from the X Space is from Great Khan. He's asking, what legal agency are you working in conjunction with to back this project, since intellectual property is holds high regards in most part of this world?
So we worked, yeah, can you, yeah. So we have in-house general counsel. We hired him from one of the UK's leading law firms, and he is one of the UK's leading kind of crypto asset lawyers, as well as a broad experience around IP law. So we are following the existing frameworks. We are following the relevant regulations there, particularly as we operate in Europe. There's a regulation called the GDPR, which is the General Data and Protection Regulation, that prevents the use of personally identifiable information being used without the user's explicit consent. You will have probably experienced that if you've ever seen a cookie notice. Have the local expertise to ensure that we are offering a service that is compliant with all local regulations to allow us to continue to grow, and also to continue to capture larger and larger percentages of the digital ad market.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. I think that answers that question. The next question is from Mr. Fred. He's asking, how does Alkimi solve the issues tackling duplications among stakeholders?
Sorry, can you just say that again? I didn't quite catch that. Did you say duplications?
Yes, duplications among stakeholders, issues that may arise in that aspect, talking about duplication among stakeholders.
So the system that we use within the exchange is through OpenRTB. Like, the exchange in the middle, essentially, a publisher will produce a bid request. It will go into the exchange, and then we will match it as a matching engine in the middle. So there'll be like loads of bids that have been placed beforehand, and based on the information within that bid request that's sent from the publisher, it will have to meet a certain set of criteria from the advertiser side. We will then match it to the highest price with that also is within the parameters that the advertiser wants to advertise on. So we don't really necessarily have a massive problem with duplication in that respect, because we're the matching engine in the middle, in the same way that sort of the New York Stock Exchange might work when there's bid and sell orders that go on between different parties. We will make sure that there is no duplication in the middle by being the matching engine between two parties. So it's not in the same way that it might be fully peer-to-peer because the matching engine sits in the middle, but in the same way that an automated market maker would within Uniswap, for example. So by doing that, we make sure that there's no duplication, and ultimately an advert has to be served on a page. You can't kind of serve two at the same time. So it's whichever one actually has been served on the website is the one that will then put the transaction onto the blockchain for. So that's kind of how a few of the ways that we don't have the same issues with duplication.
Okay, so this question is just from my own observation. What crucial role does Web3 communities play for companies leveraging blockchain's decentralization?
I guess the Web3 community side of things, it allows everyday internet users, kind of us on the call, to support the ad-funded internet model in a way that's not been possible without a blockchain. So ultimately, none of this would be possible without a Web3 community, and that everyone has an important role to play in ensuring that the internet stays ad-funded and that we provide more value to advertisers and publishers to make sure the cost of goods don't continue to get crazy, and equally that websites, apps can continue to produce content that is freely accessible by everyone around the world.
All right, thank you so much. So far, so good. It's been absolutely amazing with you guys. And just as we are slowly moving towards the end of the presentation, I would be going to the live segment in 2 minutes or so. So I have one more question to ask from the X space. No, this is second to the last question. So Mikazuki is asking, in what ways does Alkimi vary from conventional exchanges for
The transactions being completely transparent and available for each party to see whenever they want. They can query that information. It happens in real time and is available to report on in real time. Those kind of things are very unique to us and don't exist in the market at the moment. And we manage that as well by the distributed node technology. So that again means that we're a lot more efficient in the way that those systems are running. So rather than having like the maximum uptime you might ever need, which is kind of what happens if you're one of the incumbents at the moment within the industry, we actually are effectively like spot buying. And what that means is that the whole network is a lot more efficient, and we're using a lot less energy when we do it. So there's a lot of these kind of like differences are completely underneath the surface in the infrastructure that we've built. Whereas the kind of bit on the top layer, if the sort of interaction bit, the endpoints that we use and all those kind of bits, they look exactly the same. So it allows us to use things like OpenRTB, which is a widely used standard, which is around the kind of information that's available in that bid object that I was talking about that the publisher sends to the exchange, and the bid request that is sent as well. So it allows us to effectively manage everything on the surface in the same way as everybody else is using it and access all of the current market. But the bit underneath the digital infrastructure is what is very, very unique to us, using blockchains and distributed nodes. That's kind of what is at the bleeding edge of both blockchain technology and also advertising technology.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it's about time for the live segment, and I've taken one question from one of our live participants. Asking, how can I integrate with Alkimi?
Is that I, as in a website or a publisher, or as an individual user?
An individual user.
So the best way to do that is to hold the token. Once you hold the token, you can then enter the raffle to operate a node, or you can join the liquidity pool and start earning rewards via the staking pool that we have open on the Labs platform.
All right. So the next live participant is asking, so currently your ads token is in 4 markets. When is your next listing?
So we're targeting at least 1 exchange listing per quarter. We're actually very close to having 1 squared away. So the next listing will be sooner rather than later.
All right, Mr. Ben and Mr. Adam, I would request you guys, I've asked 2 questions from the live segment now, essentially. I would leave you guys with the spotlight to pick about 3 questions, perhaps from the live segment, and just answer them.
Would you mind sending a link to where I can see the questions? I'm not sure where they are.
Okay, so if the chat is open, perhaps you can take 3 questions from maybe after the AME.
Is this in Telegram?
Okay, well, I just got 1 more question. I guess this should do the trick. All right, so he's asking, what are the benefits of holding your token for a long term?
I think, as we kind of mentioned before, it allows you to get access to what is a brand new real world asset, the tokenization of the digital ad industry. In doing so, you share in the fees that are generated by the protocol, and also you help to support keeping the internet ad funded and content free online around the world.
All right, okay. So another question just popped in, guys. This should be the second to the last question. Of course, if we are not able to answer your question, guys, please make sure to throw your questions to Alkimi Telegram community. They have admins who are probably seated to answer your questions, no matter how difficult or basic it may be. So the next participant is, where can token be purchased at the moment? Where can your tokens be purchased at the moment? And can you provide information on the fluctuation in the value of your token? Additionally, can you share some of your biggest ambitions for this year and outline any long-term plans in place to achieve these goals?
So yeah, the token is available on KuCoin, Gate, MEXC, Uphold, and Balancer and Uniswap. So there's quite a lot of liquidity across all of those. The Balancer pool actually provides liquidity for the pair on the Balancer exchange, so that's really good. We have got an extensive roadmap on our website. It's very detailed. There's a lot of information on there, so I wouldn't want to butcher it by giving you just a few highlights. But basically, we have an amazing CTO, and he's put together a really comprehensive roadmap with a lot of technological development. So we're even building out our own demand side platform to make sure that our customers can actually benefit from our 3% fees. In terms of like the fluctuation of the price of token, that is just free markets, and that's how they work. Wouldn't possibly want to speculate on that, but essentially by us generating fees, we do buybacks, which we then reward token holders with who stake for liquidity or for nodes. So obviously that has a positive impact on those things. But you should go and check out the roadmap at alkimi.org. It's really comprehensive. There's a lot of things that are very advertising heavy, but there's also a lot of things that are a bit more crypto specific that are going to be happening this year. So it's you should go and check it out, and you'll be able to find out a lot more about the amazing work that Chandra has been doing and is going to be doing next year.
All right. So talking about your airdrops, any plan on airdrop planning for Manson?
Yes, as I say, we are currently running a campaign on Galaxy. So if you head over to the Galaxy platform, search for Alkimi, there's a number of steps that will take place to make you eligible for the airdrop. That is an airdrop of 250,000 staked ads tokens to be shared equally, shared to people that are participating within the actual airdrop itself. And currently, I think the LP token is worth around just under $1 or so. So it's around about $250,000 that we will be airdropping over the coming months to people that engage with Twitter, join our Discord, watch our YouTube videos, pool liquidity, a whole number of activities. Just engage with Alkimi as much as possible, and then you will earn points to make you eligible for a large proportion of the airdrop.
Okay, so I think with this, we have come to the end of the AMA with Alkimi. Of course, Mr. Ben, I really want to say thank you, and also Mr. Adam, co-founder of Alkimi. I want to say thank you for taking time out to answer some of our technical questions and some of the simple questions that came as well. Thanks also to those active members over at Binance Live for sending in your questions, and I'm really sorry for those whose questions I did not pick. But if you have more questions, please throw your questions to the Telegram community. So I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Adam to perhaps give a closing word, perhaps to touch on something that we have not already covered within the course of the AMA from the start to the end. And then Mr. Ben can just give a cap to that.
Well, I think it was pretty comprehensive, and all the questions were really good and obviously well researched. So just understanding the nuance between an ad exchange and maybe a crypto exchange, for example. But yeah, we really just want people to get involved and come and join us in the Telegram channel, learn more about it, and kind of make informed decisions about whether they want to join us on the journey to keep the internet free for everybody, really, and help them yield farm the internet in a way that hasn't really been possible before.
All right, so thank you so much. And guys, please stay glued to Crypto Attack for the recap of this presentation. And I really wish Alkimi the very best for the coming future. Have a very good day, guys. Enjoy your day.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having us. Cheers, everyone.